So we're going to look at certain aspects of using vocabulary, which you can see there. We actually have 2 different webinars on this subject, and we look at different aspects of vocabulary in each of those webinars. And we're also going to look at the strategies for learning vocabulary. So finding vocabulary, how do you find it? How do you record it? How do you then learn it and use it? So that's something that we'll look at the end of the webinar, okay? So what we're really focusing on here is using vocabulary in context, okay? We never use it just one word at a time. So it's not just a case of knowing the meaning of a word, but you need to know how that word works in a sentence, and all of the different aspects of using that word. So that's really what we're going to look at today, to show you the kinds of things you need to think about when you're learning vocabulary. Remember, you know, that for speaking and writing, 25% of your mark is on your vocabulary. So it's a very, very, obviously a very, very key aspect of the IELTS and of the learning, okay? That's right, Attila, that's what we're going to look at. Actually, connotation is in the other webinar. So let's just introduce this by thinking about what the word tells us. So not just what it means. I'm not looking at the meaning here, but what kind of idea do you get? So if you look at the first word, we'll look at here. Hello, Manuel. Yummy, yeah, okay. So we think about food. How does it make you feel? Yes, it's like tasty. Okay, what kind of a word is it? Would we use this in a writing? Could you write this in your essay, or is it something? Yes, okay, it's much more informal. It's related to food, and it means delicious. Yes, so very nice word to use, but only when you are speaking. So that's one thing. Okay, what about exquisite? What do you think of when you think of exquisite? Oh, I like elegant, Maria. That's very nice. Okay. Shahad, you put in the writing. I think you're right. I think this is quite a nice word that you could use. You could actually use in both. Yeah, it's very much, it's beautiful, but beautiful in what way? So beautiful is a very general word. Exquisite is beautiful in what kind of a way? It's not exactly unique. I wouldn't say it's, yeah, yes, it's delicate, Maria. I think you've got that there. So yes, Mariko, talking about art, talking about manners, Honoko, that's good situations to use exquisite. So it's beautiful, but it's only beautiful in a very delicate, in a very precise way. So you have to think about that kind of idea. So that's the kind of thing we're thinking about. Yes, it means beautiful, but you could use beautiful to describe anything. What can you use exquisite with? Fantastic piece of vocabulary. Perfect, Ali. An exquisite piece of artwork. That would be wonderful. Some kind of artifact. Great workmanship, great craftsmanship. Okay. Okay, what about the next one? Again, how does this make you feel? I'm not really thinking about the meaning here, but what do you think when you see that word? Okay, very true. That can really depend on how you feel. You could think about it in a negative way. You could think about it in a positive way, like demanding, Julius. Yeah, it could make you feel different things depending on if you like to be challenged or not. Okay. And what about the last one? What do you think about that word? Okay, yeah, development. Okay, so hi, Neo. So yeah, Neo's thinking about it in a positive way. So we progress, we advance, we improve. But yes, as Shuvachayam, I'm not sure if I'm saying your name right, it could also be, you know, you could use it negatively. We can progress so much that we lose certain things, you know, things like the environment, animals. So, you know, there's different ways that you can think about it. Okay. So we're also looking at other things like what part of speech are they, you know? So yummy, for example, what kind of a word is yummy? Exactly, Attila. So that's an adjective, okay? So very important to know what kind of word it is and what all the other words are that are related, if there are other words, okay? As we looked at before, another aspect is register. So can we use it in the writing? Can we use it in the speaking only? Or is it a neutral word? Can we use it in all areas? For example, challenge is a neutral word. Yummy is very much an informal word, okay? And then, as Attila mentioned before, we have the connotation. So does it make you feel positive or does it make you feel negative? So certain words have very clear connotations. Other words, it can depend on how you feel about it, okay? And we can also think about the words that we use them together with. As I said, it's, yes, Italy, yummy is always positive. It can't be negative, but progress could be both, yeah? And as I mentioned before, we always use words in a context. So how are we going to put it in a sentence? You know, what verbs do we use with it? What prepositions do we use with it? You know, we're always talking about yummy food. So what kind of word could we put in front of challenge? What would be a good adjective to describe a challenge? An adjective to put in front of it. So yeah, that's an example. What kind of adjective? So yes, it could be a difficult challenge. It could be a great challenge, a demanding challenge. Okay, a tough challenge, very nice. Okay, so, you know, certain words go together very well. And that's a very important aspect of learning a vocabulary, a piece of vocabulary, okay? So we're going to look at all of these different aspects now, okay? And we're going to do that through some pairs of words that I'm going to show you, okay? But we're not looking at meaning, okay? So don't think about the meaning being different, but think about the other parts being different, okay? So we look at the first one. I know the meaning is different, but what do we need to think about? What kind of mistake might somebody make using through and through? What kind of area might possibly be a bit difficult there? Well, yes, it could be, yes, the pronunciation or the spelling. Yes, Asma, I think what we're looking at there is it's quite easy to get the spelling wrong. So we can have two words that sound the same, but the spelling is different, okay? And then here, what are we thinking about here? If you look at those two sentences, what's, again, I know the meaning is different, but what else is different? Okay, very good pronunciation. So 1 minute, but if we mean very precise, we say minute. It's a very different pronunciation depending on the meaning of the word. So obviously that's very important aspect, okay? Okay, what about the next one? So here the meaning is the same, okay? So what have we changed? Yes, okay, so I mean in this case, adjective and adverb. It's not the tense, they're both in the past simple tense. What are we looking at here? Getting a lot of words. Yes, okay, thank you, Neo and a few others. This is word formation. Okay, so what's the noun? What's the verb? What's the adjective? Okay, that's or also Olga, sorry, we also call it parts of speech. You're absolutely right. So parts of speech or word formation or word families is another thing that sometimes you'll see that under. Very important, very key aspect of IELTS, okay? Remember that it's not always a case of using a different word, using a synonym, but if you can use a different part of speech, that shows the examiner that you have a very good command of the language. So that's another thing to think about. Okay, what about the next one? What are we looking at here? What's wrong here? Okay, yes, so it's the context is the right word. So exactly, we use handsome with a man, we don't use handsome with a woman. Hello. Okay. And this one's a bit tricky. It's not such a common one to think about, but what have we changed there? Yes, it's like the infinitive. So do we use an infinitive? Do we use a gerund? Do we use a bare infinitive? So this is called colligation. But you can also think about it as verb patterns. That's usually what I say, yeah. Okay, yes, so exactly, gerund, or to do something, or do. So what kind of part of the word do we use in a sentence, okay? All right, so if we have a look at the next one, so what are we looking at in the next one? What have we already talked about here? So difficult, challenging, they're synonyms, so what's different? Exactly, yes, okay, the connotation is different, okay? Difficult always has a negative connotation. Challenging, it tends to be positive, but maybe it's a bit more one of those where you could use it positively or negatively. So another very important aspect. Okay, Donier, connotation means the feeling that you have with that word. So is it a positive word or is it a negative word? So for example, to take a basic example, if I describe somebody as slim, then that's a very positive word to use. If you said I was slim, I would feel very complimented. I'll feel very happy. If you said I was skinny or scrawny, yes, the meaning is the same, but that's a very negative word to use. And if you said I was looking scrawny, I would feel, or skinny, I would feel very bad. So all words, or a lot of words, have a positive or a negative connotation. Some words are neutral. They don't have any connotation whatsoever. Effect is a word like that. So you have to put another word with it to make it positive or negative. Hello, Pachu. Pachu. Okay, what about the next one? What are we, again, the meaning here is the same. So what's different? Okay, very nice, good. Yes, register is the key word, okay? But yes, formal versus informal. So this is an extremely important part of knowing a word. You know, you've got to use the academic words in your writing. And in the speaking, you should be using informal words, okay? Yes, exactly, Janice. You couldn't put kids in your essay. It's very informal English, okay? And how about the last one? What are we looking at here? Colligation, Pachu, means do you use the gerund or the infinitive or those? Yes, so we're looking at idiom. Is it an idiom or is it just a normal word? And again, in the writing, you would really want to avoid idioms. I wouldn't put any idioms in the writing. And even with the speaking, you've got to be quite careful about using idioms. You know, don't force them. Don't use too many. It's just not very natural. If you're putting an idiom in every answer that you give, even in speaking, it can sound a bit too much. You know, we don't use them all the time. So fine to use them occasionally, but don't try and put an idiom, like think, oh, I have to use an idiom in every answer for it to be informal. That would be too much. Okay. All right. So I'm going to look at some of these aspects. Thank you, Attila. Now, okay. So we're going to just look at these areas. The other areas like registration, register and connotation and idiom, we will look at in a different webinar. Okay.